Hey everybody, Josh here. I am dropping this little bonus, not bonus, I'm dropping this little extra piece of audio because I wanted to communicate some stuff, some updates about Titans. We've been doing Titans for, uh, since October. We started recording October 2018. And so we're a little over a year now, and it's been amazing, and nothing bad is happening. Episode's still releasing tomorrow. I gotta premise this stuff. I don't want to freak anybody out. No, I you undoubtedly saw the title, "How to Help Titans," and and really, this is more or less me just giving you some updates and kind of telling you how things are going and what the future looks like for Titans. You may or may not have noticed uh, in the last couple during season one how I've kind of intentionally tried not to mention Patreon as much or talk about really anything except for the episodes themselves. I'm trying to focus more on letting the story be the story and not interrupt it with any kind of advertisement. So that might be a bad idea, I guess, as a content creator, because you're kind of supposed to figure out how to monetize all this stuff. But more and more, I've found that I just really want the story to be the story, and it's probably a terrible business strategy, uh, but I find that the more I try and make these kinds of things financially cohesive with synergy, can I find other buzzwords? The more I stop to enjoy them, the more that this starts to become, I don't know, less uh, pure. And that maybe sounds ridiculous. I do believe that there is a point at which a creative endeavor can become your primary focus because of sustainable revenue, I suppose, or some way to financially sustain it. But I'm not looking for that. If that comes, I want it to be because it comes naturally and we're fulfilling some kind of need that is actually hitting the market at a very large level, and not because uh, I'm doing a bunch of market strategy and changing everything that I'm doing in order to fit whatever looks like it's going to sell the most. I don't know if that makes sense. We talked about this a little bit, my brother and I, Ricky, who plays Dolphin, in an autopsy for the Kickstarter back last summer. And this is definitely, I would say, this brief post here is definitely in the vein of that. I kept thinking about how to talk about all this stuff in a way that felt more like, I don't know, excited and pitchy. Like I'm trying to, like, hey everybody, here's what's going on. Get my kind of, announcer voice going. But the more I think about it, the more I remember that so many of you who are listening are such incredible fans. Some of you are, or even people I would consider to be friends at on a very, like, like the very, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Um, some of you I've connected with on a much more deeper level than others, and so I'm very grateful for all of you who have been with us. Some of you have been following Kelsey and I since, like, even 2015, back when we started Sneak Attack with our other friends. And some of you are brand new. Some of you just found Titans and you're only getting here and you're like, wow, didn't know how serious Josh could get. But but I'm I'm incredibly grateful for everyone who's been with us this entire time. When we launched Titans in on November in 2018, we before I should say this, I created our Patreon page for Titans, like, I think a week or maybe a couple weeks before November, just to kind of get everything set up. And just by putting the word out before we had a single episode down, I think I put it out in October. We had a whole month, I think, where I shared some of those, like, videos interviewing the cast and some of that fun preemptory stuff. And oh my gosh, all the things I wanted to do with this creative content. I should say, like, my job, I had less work at that time, less freelance work, and I think I was definitely seeking a lot more. So I wanted to invest more time and more creativity into this partially because I had the time, but also because I think I really wanted to find what my thing is. What is the thing I want to do? And so I did a kind of a shotgun approach, which I wouldn't recommend because most of those creative projects that I even promised weren't delivered, and so that bothers me, but not in a way that I think is that I'm beating myself up with. It's more just disappointing. Some things I wanted to do that I never really could, uh, and but what's crazy is what the crazy point I'm trying to make about how amazing some of you are, so many of you are, is when we that whole month we hadn't even started episodes yet, but there was I think around 80 people that hopped onto the Patreon, like out of there was no episodes. Like we had no content yet, but there were 80 people who were just like, "Hey, Josh, I love what you did in Sneak Attack. I'm so excited about this new story that you're telling, and the cast looks amazing, and I want to support you, even though I have no idea what the show will sound like." That level of, I hope you know, that level of trust and excitement for these kinds of things is it does not go unnoticed or unvalued. I'm so grateful, so incredibly grateful for all of those 80 something people who hopped on immediately. And then over the course of the first season of Titans, we I think we grew the Patreon to like 140, which was amazing. And we were it's really great because it allowed us to do a lot of really fun art stuff with Jen, and she's been incredible. And I know we haven't done as much art stuff this year, but I do have her working on some pretty awesome projects that I'm hoping we'll be able to showcase uh, in December sometime. But that's beside the point. What I'm trying to say is I'm super grateful for everyone who supported us, and I'm entering a season now of life where I don't know what the next year's going to look like. I don't know what the next 5 months are going to look like, and I'm so blessed to have such incredible people around me. My wife, Kelsey, plays Joan, is I think it's one of the greatest gifts that God could have ever given me was to be able to meet and marry her. And the fact that she said yes blows my mind still. Um, I really love her a lot. And a lot of, and Titans, honestly, would not be possible if it wasn't for Kelsey. Any of the creative stuff that I've gotten to do in the last almost 2 years wouldn't be possible without my wife and her making room for me to do that. I'm very, very thankful. And so I'm not worried about the future. This isn't the kind of post. That's not what I'm really intending for this little podcast blip to do. I'm trying to explain that there's some new stuff coming, and I'm really excited about it. This is what an authentic excited post sounds like. And I think that's why I didn't want to get into a whole sales pitchy mode because I really feel like a lot of you guys know me, and I think you would know that I'm putting on a face. And so I just want to be really honest and say that we're hitting a season now where your support would mean the world. Anything you can do for us would really be amazing. There's a lot I want to do with Titans, but even just keeping the kind of the bonus pod stuff going, creating more art, some very basic things could use I could really use some support. Really love some support, and I want you to know how much I value it. And there's definitely no piece of me that says that there's no possibility for episodes to not release. I want to make that clear. We could be making absolutely nothing from this show, and I would still do everything I could to produce one episode every week until we hit the end of season 2. And season 3, even now, just to be completely straightforward with you guys, season 3 is a ways away. I like to think we'll be able to do it next year the same way we're doing it season 2 this year. We're doing one season a year. I like to think that that's possible. But to be completely honest, I don't know. I definitely want to create season 3, to produce it, for us to play it and record it. But I don't know what that will look like. Looking out that far, I don't know. And the more that we can create some stability, the more I can know. But I'm not. It's going to happen. I'm just saying It might be 2 years. It might be a year and a half. It might be longer. I don't know. It might be immediately. All I'm saying is the future is not a stable thing at the moment when it comes to my creative pursuits. I'm definitely looking for more stable work, but I want to keep investing in this, and so that's why I wanted to tell you guys about some opportunities for your support that are available, even though I may not have through the episodes. So we've updated our Patreon. Let me get to the point, Josh. It's been 10 minutes. Good grief. We've updated our Patreon and simplified it. So there's really no more rewards that aren't going to get fulfilled. And the rewards that are there are stuff that we have been able to be consistent with, and new things that I am so incredibly excited to do. So I've lessened the gap I've lessened the price in order to get the post show. So if you've been wanting to jump in on the post show, it's only $2 a month. It's the lowest tier that we have on our Patreon. For $2 a month, you'll get access to every single post show that we have ever recorded, all the way through season 2, and the new ones that are coming out with all the way through season 1, and the new ones that are coming out with season 2. So that's a decent amount of content. It's got to be like, I don't know, maybe like 15 hours, maybe? No, that's probably ridiculous, right? No, it's probably somewhere around there. The post shows typically range between like 5 and 15 minutes, depending on how much we have to talk about. I gotta take a drink. Depending on how much we have to talk about, and yeah, it's really fun. We love them. The post shows are one of my favorite parts of Titans, because any D&D podcast I've ever recorded, whether it's with Sneak Attack, Titans, or some of the other extra stuff I've done with other groups, there's always this really great moment at the end of the session where everyone's talking about what happened, and it's super fun. I think you get to see how the players are also kind of fans, and how you get to see this level of engagement that you don't get when everyone's got their game face on. So it's you let their hair down, and you start to talk about your character, and you laugh about moments that happened. So the post show is super fun for us, and I wanted to make that as accessible as possible. So I brought it down to the $2 tier. So that's all it takes. For $2 at our Patreon at patreon.com/thetitanpod, the Titan Pod, you can gain access to all of our post shows and any post shows that are coming. Super excited about that. I also release, as soon as I have the episode edited, I release it on our Patreon. Sometimes that's super early, sometimes it's not. So I'm not promising an early release, but they will be there. The other thing that is the only thing that's really stayed the same is at the $5 tier for Patreon, you gain access to the Altera Autopsy, which, as I'm recording this, we are just getting ready. I'm waiting for everyone to come over, and we're going to record the autopsy for episode 5, I think. Maybe it's 4. I can't remember. We're getting ready to record one of them about the episode that just came out last Thursday. So that's gonna happen tonight. And at $5, you'll gain access to all of those, previous and the ones to come. And the autopsy is a retrospective, so we kind of take about 30 minutes, and we're pretty good at sticking to that. It's either 30 or more. And we talk about the episode that just released. So for us, we record so much in advance that a lot of times these episodes come out a month to even sometimes 2 or a month and a half to 2 months after we've recorded the session. And so it's kind of fun for us to sit down and go back and go look over everything that happened in light of what we know is coming. And so a lot of times you'll get little lore drops. We dig into kind of character stuff, and sometimes we just get on random rabbit trails and hang out and have great conversations as friends and family. So it's always a good time. I really enjoy that. So that's only $5. So $2 gets you the post show, $5 tier, and that's just a month. $5, $2 a month, and the $5 gets you the autopsy, or weekly retrospective, and then I've gotten rid of all of the other higher tiers and created 3 tiers that are all the same price range, and they are patron games. So this is the thing I'm most excited about, and if I was a good marketer, I probably would have opened this talking about talking about these so that I didn't lose anybody. But I couldn't help myself from just talking because that's more me than anything else. And I just want to be myself with you guys. So at the $50 tier, there are 3 tiers of $50 each, and each have a total of 5 spots. And each of them are Patreon games where I'll dungeon master a game with you guys, the patrons. So if you've ever wanted to play in a game where I dungeon mastered, that's the place to do it. And I've actually outlined the 3 different campaigns, and they're homemade campaigns each. I love world building, and so we're jumping into Altera. So we're staying in Altera, but we're actually staying modern day Altera, just a little bit before the beginning of season 2. So we're gonna jump in kind of between the seasons in each of these campaigns, and you're gonna get to see different parts of Altera as they're kind of changing and molding around the main campaign that would just majorly affecting each of them. And they're each taking place in 3 of the 4 kingdoms that we didn't really get to explore that much in season 1, and we probably won't explore a whole bunch more in season 2. I'm not certain, but so there is the Bloodbreaker campaign, which takes place in Fairhaven, and this is probably the most PG-13 of the games because the city of Fairhaven is intense, and the struggle that some of the human warriors and I don't know, the goodly people of Fairhaven are facing against their own kind of the elves who are in power there is pretty intense. And I want to showcase that and some of the turmoil that went on there and what led Targrave, Bloodbreaker, to leading somewhat of a revolt against Fairhaven from within and leaving the city and going to uh, the kingdom of the dwarves where this resistance has been building. So that'll be really cool. You'll get to see how the resistance was started. You get to be part of some of the decisions that get made and how those events take place and play themselves out. I haven't written like a novel on how all this happens. I have heavy beats of like what's going to happen in the city, but I'm really interested to see what players will do within them. So I kind of want to use these games as one, a way for me to connect with 5 of you guys at a time and just play some good old fashioned down at the table D&D. But 2, this is also a really great way to help me flesh out the events in these different locations in Altera in what will probably, in my opinion, be much more realistic, much more compelling than if I just write it all down myself. Actually putting some players in the world and going, what does this make you feel? How do you want to react? I feel like we'll create a much better outline for me in terms of what I need to focus on and what to flesh out. I can't promise that everything that happens in these patron games will become canon elements in the overarching story, but I can promise that they will greatly influence how I choose to move the overarching story forward. So there will be some back and forth, but I'm not going to make it a one-to-one. However, what does happen in the podcast, what happens in Titans every week, will then probably affect the other campaigns as we kind of move on throughout the season. We're not even like a third through yet, so there's still so much season left to have and a lot of games to play. The other 2 campaigns, one of them is, I think it's called Out of Reach, and that's going to be taking place in the Kingdom of Gold, Diadem Reach, and that is the kind of mining kingdom. They have access to huge cavernous ore veins that they've been digging in through, and they provide almost all of the rare minerals and materials for the 4 kingdoms. Almost every like piece of jewelry and armor has some kind of origin from Diadem Reach. They are sturdy folk, strong folk, and they love their hard work. Think like the Midwest of the fantasy world. These are folks who work in the field or they're with their hands all the time. So they're very gruff, but they are digging into the earth and uncovering something ancient that I've had laying there since the beginning of Titans. And so there's some lore to be had in Diadem Reach, and I'm very excited to kind of dig into that and literally dig into it and kind of unveil some deeper things in the world of Altera that may not come to light until season 3, may not fully manifest themselves until season 3. So you and your party will kind of get to explore. You'll be part of a mining group, and what you uncover and how you deal with that will be up to you. But I'm really excited for that one. And then the other is, I think, A Kingdom Conquered is what I called it, and it's taking place in the largest of the four kingdoms, uh, Alestria, which is the People's Kingdom. And if you remember from some of the lore I dropped in 2018, this kingdom is all about commerce. So this is basically the central hub for any and all mercantile trading and goods for throughout the four kingdoms. It's actually one of the strongest seats of power in all of Altera. So holding it gives whoever's holding Alestria has a lot of power in the entire region because they can kind of hit anybody without really going very far. And because they're kind of in the central place of commerce, they have the ability to really like block communities from working together. So a lot of those basic trade routes are locked off. And this is actually where we'll get to see what's going on with Davi. So if you remember, she and Podge got left in the kingdom, or at least the last we knew of them, they were in the kingdom of Alestria. And she's actually been in there building a resistance to the dwarves and the White Order who have kind of taken over. And so you'll actually be kind of freedom fighters, resistance, members of the resistance within Alestria. And whether the campaign stays in Alestria or not is somewhat ambiguous, but for the most part, Davi will have orders. Basically, she'll have missions for you to fulfill, and so it'll be kind of a fun kind of quest kind of game where it's like, okay, here's a job, I need you guys to do it. You go and do it, counter some stuff, find information, and maybe that informs what the next job is. But there's a couple big plot elements that have to do with Alestria in terms of where the queen is, what's really going on with the White Order, who's this dark dream figure that kind of attacked Winnie in season 1 and is somewhat looming over season 2. So we'll deal with some of those things in Alestria, and I'm super excited for that. So anyway, like I said, I can't wait to play these games, and I really, really hope that we have enough people who are able to hop in and jump in on them, because I think it will be super fun. I think you guys are going to enjoy Alestria. I think you'll enjoy hanging out with each other and playing just some good old-fashioned D&D. I'm looking forward to it. So there's 5 seats in each. I know that there are still open seats in all of them. I think one of them has a couple taken already, so feel free to hop in. The first game for each of these is going to be taking place not this Friday, but next, which it really doesn't make sense unless I pull up a calendar, I suppose. So the 20th of December will be the first games for each of these. The games are going to take place every third Friday, and they kind of go one after another, for me at least. So one starts, I think, around 5, the other one starts around 7:30, and then the next one starts at 10, if my memory serves correctly. And so basically, each game has room for about 2 to 2.5 hours for the most part. That's about as long as a session for recording goes for Titans. When you boil it down to just the game parts, we record, I think, the games we do each month, we record about 3 games, and that happens within the course of 2.5 to 3 hours. So I'm basically trying to give you guys a similar experience to what the cast members experience, where it is we get together once a month at least, and we play about 2.5 hours, sometimes 4, depending on how things are going. And yeah, so that's how these games are laid out, and so you can kind of check your schedules to see what works. But I wanted to lock those in before I opened all these up. So go to Patreon. You can figure out when each game is and which one you might want to do more. If I haven't already, I will very soon release some more details when it comes to what type of characters are typical for those different kingdoms. But I'm pretty open to you guys playing whatever you want, and we can kind of creatively make it work. But at least within like the realm of Altera. But yeah, for the most part, I think it'll be super fun, and I really hope that some of you guys will go check it out. And yeah, my hope is that these games kind of become a way to create some very strong and consistent sustainability for not just Titans, art, and other creative pursuits that I'm hoping to invest more in, but also for the Patreon itself to help it continue to grow and develop. And I'm going to be adding a goal that if we can get to $2,000 a month, that I'm going to actually start investing in an editor, kind of like what Reed does with Titans. So someone who will go through a first pass and set things up, and then I can add in just the music and the ambiance, ambiance and elements and stuff like that, which would make my ability to produce the episodes faster, incredibly faster and much smoother, with a lot less taxing on my time, which would be really important. It would mean more time for world building, more time for other creative pursuits, amidst kind of some of my real life work, kind of taking a little more time from me right now. So that was a mouthful. Whoo! Did not expect this to be 30 minutes long. Seriously, I know the only people who are still listening are people who are legitimately invested in what we're doing and how we're going forward. For real, please feel no obligation to support us on Patreon. Listening, giving us 5 stars, sharing it with your friends, social media. Honestly, just downloading and listening to the episodes, it warms my heart and amazes me. So I'm very grateful. You're always welcome to email me at thetitanpod@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. I can't promise I'll respond to every email, but the emails that I do get, I always love reading, and it's amazing to me to see the different families and friends that are coming together and listening and having fun around Titans. So please feel free to contact me. You can also find me on Twitter. You can either go to @thetitanpod on Twitter. That's our official podcast Twitter account, and then you can find me. I think it's Joshua the Hippie, @Joshua the Hippie on Twitter, if you want to just say hey. Either way, again, our Patreon. I gotta do the good. I gotta make sure I'm communicating all the right stuff. Patreon. Our Patreon account is patreon.com/thetitanpod. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. I'm very excited for the future, for everything to come. I'm super excited for these patron games, and I hope we get enough people that we can really get each of them off the ground and start to play around and have some fun in other places of Altera. I really think you guys will enjoy them. I'm not like a cocky thing, but I love dungeon mastering, and I would love to hang out with you guys. So please go check that out. See what rewards work for you. Even if you can only do $2, that's seriously amazing, blows my mind, and I think you'll really enjoy the post shows. Again, I said it so much already, and honestly, thank you for letting me just be myself. Thank you for listening, hearing me out, and not needing me to be some kind of cartoonish cheerleader, desperately trying to garner your attention. I'm just grateful that I can be sincere and honest with you guys, and know that that almost all of you who have been regulars with us will hear it, at least at how I'm hoping to intend. So thank you guys so much, and I think you're going to enjoy this week's episode of Titans. It's pretty exciting. Combat is a coming. So have a great week, guys, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you very much.